Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves. Welcome back to a brand new match preview on the channel. Hope you guys are keeping well. If you are celebrating as well, happy Easter over this weekend. It sounded like a very quiet pre-match press conference for Vitor Pereira. I think there was only a couple of journalists that were actually there at Compton training ground today. But we've got the latest from Vitor's pre-match press conference, my thoughts and team prediction as well ahead of the Manchester United game. And we'll speak to Manchester United fans to get the opposition perspective later on in the video. But Wolves are currently on a 4-match winning run, 5 matches unbeaten. And at the moment, Wolves are in a very, very nice place. Survival, I think, could be secured this weekend. If not, next week weekend against Leicester, survival can be completely mathematically confirmed. However, I think now it's a point that Wolves can maybe start looking up the table. I'll grab the Premier League table up now whilst I speak. I'm fairly certain if we win today's game against this weekend's game, against Manchester United, we can go level on points with them. Their goal difference is a little bit superior to ours, but yeah, they're on 38 points. We're on 35 at the moment. But there is, we win this weekend and results go our way. We'll be level on points with Everton, who are 13th. There's every chance that Wolves can continue to climb the table, and by another couple of positive results going our way the next couple of weeks, there's every chance that Wolves could be knocking on the door towards sort of 13th or 12th place. So it's crazy how a real strong batch of form could change your fortunes and change how the Premier League table looked for a team that were 17th or lower from game week 1 to now being 16th and being able to look potentially up the table is actually a really, really nice feeling. And we play up against a Manchester United side who have been all over the shop, and I'll mention it later on in the video. This will be their lowest points finish in a Premier League season, regardless of how well they end the campaign as well. I managed to catch the first half of their Europa League game yesterday against Lyon. I thought the job was done, so I didn't watch the rest, and then I saw it was all kicking off again in extra time, so I turned that on and was able to witness live what had happened. And purely from a neutral perspective, what a game of football that was. But I think some of this could work in Wolves' favour. Of course, Manchester United, their bulk of their squad, would have played close to 120 minutes yesterday. Ruben Amorim made a comment that he'll have to rotate, and his words were, have to play the kids in the Premier League, because ultimately the Europa League now is our only chance of getting European football. So there's a few factors going into this game. I think it is going to be a rotated Manchester United squad. We did see that with Spurs last weekend. They did a little bit of rotation, and Wolves took full advantage of that. But sort of maybe, I think the momentum and atmosphere may well be there at Old Trafford on Sunday. I think the key is, as we did at Molineux on last Sunday, get an early goal, frustrate the opposition, and go from there. And I think we've got enough quality, enough momentum, and enough confidence right now to do so. Now, in Vitor's pre-match press conference, he did confirm the news. Matt Doherty and Jean-Ric Bellegarde came off with knocks last weekend. Vitor did say in his post-match press conference after the game against Spurs that they were just precautionary substitutions, but it sounds like they are huge doubts going into this game. So Vitor mentioned Jean-Ric Bellegarde, Matt Doherty and Hwang Hee-chan as doubts going into this game. The players that will have to make late checks on tomorrow. Other players that won't be in the squad at all, Pedro Lima and Sam Johnston, still injured and still training separately at the moment from the main first team group. But I think this now gives a perfect opportunity to potentially reintegrate Matheus Cunha into the starting 11. If Jean-Ric Bellegarde isn't fully fit and not available to start, I think this is the chance for Matheus Cunha. Now, interestingly, we did see Pablo Sarabia come on ahead of Cunha on Sunday, so we may see Pablo start, but I think if Cunha's available, Vitor will go for him. Ty, who we speak to shortly, dubbed it as maybe Matheus Cunha's Old Trafford audition. But I do think that he added serious quality. You could tell as soon as he came on against Spurs that, he was the man. And I think how quick, what I noticed in their game yesterday, how quick Manchester United, when they were attacking and when they lost the ball, how awful they were defensively in terms of defensive positioning, how they really struggled to defend a counter-attack. And I think with Cunha in the team, we can really cause them some problems in doing that. And ultimately, between now and the end of the season, look, we know Cunha is more than likely going to move on. I just want to climb as high as we can in the Premier League table and win football matches. So I think Cunha, if he plays, I think it's a huge opportunity, for him to, show everyone what he's got, show that he still loves Wolverhampton Wanderers and show what he can do. In regards to Matt Doherty, I mean, let's I'll flag up my predicted lineup on the screen now, really. I think, let me just bear in mind those doubts. There is a chance that obviously Jean-Ric Bellegarde and Doherty may well both play. But if I had to flag up a team, I think it would be something similar to this. And I think Santiago Bueno would probably take Doc's place. Although I'd love to see Nasser Giga come in. Again, Bueno just seems to be the slightly more trusted defender at the moment. So it'd be Sarr in goal, Totti, Agbadou and Santi Bueno. Ait-Nouri and Semedo once again as a wing back, because Ait-Nouri had a great game against Spurs, as did most of that back five, to be fair, who started the game. Andre João Gomez, massive game for them. I think they could really take control of this match at Old Trafford. And then the front three of Menezes, Matheus Cunha and Jurgen Strand-Larsen. We've not really seen enough of the Menezes, Cunha, Strand-Larsen combination. Saw a little bit against Bournemouth in the league, and it worked well for Cunha because Menezes was dragging players out, and I think that'll work well for Jurgen and Matheus Cunha, hopefully to grab those goal contributions on Sunday. But it's going to be a tough game regardless. I think Old Trafford's a really tough place always to go. I am making the trip up on Sunday. I think I've been and watched Wolves 3 times at Old Trafford and we've never lost. So hopefully I can continue that record. I think it's 2 draws and a win. Hopefully we can continue that record, and I think it'll be the first league double over Manchester United in a long, long time. Of course, beating them in the reverse fixture just after Christmas last year in Vitor's first game at Molineux. So hopefully we can build on that. But let's jump over to the opposition perspective now. As always, it's great to talk to Ty about all things football, about all things Manchester United and Wolves going into this game. What can we expect from United? Does he think there'll be a little bit of a hangover after that Europa League win? And his honest thoughts on Ruben Amorim. So then, to give us the Manchester United perspective, it's great to be joined alongside Ty once again. Ty, how you been keeping, man?
Oh, better after last night.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on as always, guys. Make sure you like the video and subscribe. And Dave's a great guy, so thank you for having me.
Thank you, man.
But yeah, just to get it off my chest, I don't think I've ever watched a game of football like that in my life. Thought we were down and out. I actually thought the season was basically over because, of course, we're not fighting for anything in the league. But the Champions League is the holy grail of what, teams like Chelsea, United, City, Villa, Newcastle all fighting for. And I've just told people, it's funny actually, Dave, because on Sunday or Monday, I was on a stream last week and people were like, how are you still looking forward to the rest of the season? Like, your season's done, this and that. I said, look, that might be how you see it. But the same thing that City, Villa, Newcastle, Chelsea and Forest are fighting for, which is getting into the Champions League, we're just going about it in a different way. We're going to the same train destination, but I'm going from Wolves and you're going from Manchester, wherever it is. We're going to the same place. So I said, look, I've got everything to be looking forward to Thursday, which obviously showed last night because that was just a monumental victory. Then even yourself, who's a neutral, could just think, wow, like, you're glad like you said, I'm glad I tuned back in for extra time because you've witnessed something that's mental. So yeah, I'm feeling good after last night. The season's not been great, which we'll talk about, but this is why we love football. And Dave, don't let no one tell you can't love football, mate.
No. I'd said to Ty before we started that I'd watched the first half of that game, saw United with 2 up, thought job done, and then I had a quick look and saw Leon had got back into the game with 10 men. And thankfully, I tuned in again for extra time because, like you said, an amazing end to a game. And I suppose that game probably sums up Manchester United over the last couple of years, sort of throwing big opportunities away. But when they do take the opportunities, they make quite a hard job of it, mate, because I think that's probably been, since Sir Alex, they've just done things the hard way, really, haven't they, Manchester United?
100%. Like, even in Europe, when you think about it, since Sir Alex, we've never really actually had a good run in Europe. David Moyes struggled, Louis van Gaal, we struggled, Oli, we struggled, got out in group stages, knockouts under Mourinho to Sevilla. We've had some bad nights in Europe, and it kind of felt like that was just going to be another bad night. But also, like you said, an epitome of the whole season for Manchester United since Amorim's come in, who I'm a big fan of. I do like Ruben Amorim. He speaks well. I think he's honest. He understands where we need to improve. He's not trying to gaslight fans. And he's real, and some people might not accept that, and people just want results. But at the end of the day, I'm with him for the long journey. And I thought it was just going to be a summary of, like you said, the whole season for us. But it's just quite strange because we've had games at home where you say, no disrespect to them, the lesser teams, you should be going out and winning on paper as we would play it. We play football on paper, and we haven't done that. But then we go to the Etihad, we win. We played Arsenal, beat them in the FA Cup. Got results against Liverpool in the league. And it's like the bigger games we've actually been better in, and even away from home we've been better in, when normally, going to Old Trafford would be a hard place for teams to come, not no more. Man United would win a lot of the home games, would beat a lot of the teams we should beat on paper, and it's been like the opposite. So even going into this game on Sunday, it's kind of like we're going to have a lift, of course, because we've just won, against Lyon. We're into the semi-finals, but it's clear to see from our side that the priority is the Europa League.
Yep.
We're going to be giving players minutes against you guys on Sunday. We're trying to get people fit. We're just focused on it. But, you still want to carry that momentum through. But it's probably a perfect opportunity from a Wolves side to be coming into this game thinking, United have just played 120 minutes. The emotions, the adrenaline is high. You can capitalise potentially on that. So I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think there could be a couple goals this weekend, because I think you're coming to us at the right time, whereas our head's kind of there, but it's not there because what's happened last night, really. So it's an interesting one to see what you think of it as well going into
it. Yeah. There's so many factors, I think, going into this game. It was similar last week against Spurs, because they were in a similar position to you, where it was all to play for. We didn't really understand, or at the time, we didn't know how Postecoglou was going to approach that game. And for what it's worth, I thought Spurs were really poor at Molineux last weekend. And this one now, I felt 120 minutes, obviously, is going to be a big factor. In a sec, I'd like to know your thoughts. I mean, you mentioned it. Amorim made a comment yesterday. We're going to have to take a risk with the kids in the Premier League. We've got to focus on the Europa League. So there, straight away, tells me there could be a fair bit of rotation on Sunday, which may or may not work in Wolves' favour, of course. But I think the adrenaline and the momentum, you could see a slightly different atmosphere at Old Trafford to what maybe you were going to get maybe after 105 minutes yesterday. There's going to be, I think fans are going to be up for it a little bit more again. But I mean, I saw a stat earlier on, Ty, that regardless of how you finish in the Premier League, this will be your lowest ever points tally in the Premier League, regardless of whether you win the next 6 or whatever. Obviously, a huge part of that is down to Ten Hag. Amorim has struggled a little bit, but I mean, like you said, do you think if they lost yesterday, he would have been under a lot of pressure, Amorim, to maybe get moved on? Or do you think the plan is always to maybe give him a proper summer and a proper rebuild?
My preference would have been to give him a proper summer, a proper rebuild. It's, new ownership or new regime that's come in. They've chosen this manager. So I think if you go against the grain and already let him go before the end of the season, because if we had lost last night, hypothetically, I think it would have been also an indictment on them, because then it just sets the precedent that, okay, well, he was your number one choice manager since you've come in. If you've let him go after half a season, effectively October to now, or 3/4 of a season, if another manager comes in, are you then going to do the same? And it's just a cycle and a cycle and a cycle. You kind of have to say, right, I'm going to show that I'm going to back you. I'm going to give you a summer window, and then we'll go from there. And then say we get to December next year, or this year, should I say, of next season, then, you can look at it and assess it and say, look, we've given you a fair crack. You've had your window. Things have not improved, and we go from there. But I've always said, look, I'm willing to back Amorim and give him a transfer window, because I think what you find as well is that, and this is perfectly for Wolves as well. You've played a back five for quite a long time, Nuno, and you've continued with it now, and you've bought players that are used to the system. We've had Doherty, who was thriving back about 7 years ago. He's come back, and now he's playing as your right centre back, but he gets it. He knows what it's like to play at Wolves. For example, with us, we've not had a team that's set out to play a back three. We've not had the profiles to play a back three. You guys have kind of got that, so your manager's slotted in perfectly, and players are now picking it up quick. With Man United, we need players that are mobile. We need wing backs, which is so important. You know that with Aït-Nouri yourself. He's a brilliant left wing back. We need the wing backs. We need mobile midfielders. You've got Andre and you've got Gomez, 2 Brazilians, but they're technically sound. They can cover the ground, especially Andre as well. And then you look at the number 10s, Matthias Cunha, potentially auditioning for us on Sunday, which I definitely wanted to ask you about that. He could be auditioning for us on Sunday. If we get the Champions League and win the Europa League spots, it's more even of a power play to say, look, Cunha, come, we've got this formation that tailor-made suits you in the left 10. So I do believe we need a personnel change, because no matter what, I'll be honest with you, Dave, this is one of the worst Man United squads I've seen. I think the only area I'm happy with is the centre-back area. Mazraoui, Yoro, Martinez when he's back, De Ligt, and Maguire. Like, that's 5 players that I'm like, do you know what? you can play that. Aiden Heaven, the youngster that's coming from Arsenal, been solid even though he's injured. So we've got areas there that I'm happy with. But the rest of the squad, it can really be changed up, mate. And I think it's going to take a lot of work. It's not going to be a quick fix. I think getting into the Champions League would be a big help with finances. But, you know, next year it should be about getting into the top 6. And then the next season after that, top 4. And then going from there. Because we've seen it with this Premier League. What Nottingham Forest are doing, where Bournemouth were about a month ago, where Brighton have been, Fulham even competing for European places. We've been quite shocked. No one really had that happening at the start of the season. And it just goes to show, with a bit of the right recruitment, but also just getting a consistent framework in your team, the gap's not that big.
No,
you know, because no one would have had Forest being there. And that's the truth. I never did. I had them probably about 14th, 15th. So if you can get things right, you can bridge that gap. Because I look at the points tally in the Premier League and I think, we should be in that top 4 race this season, but we're not. You know, Ruben Amorim came in when we were 4 points off top 4. We have technically underachieved because we've gone backwards. But I'm hoping that it's gone backwards for a few steps forward because I like him. Like I said, like the way he speaks. He's got a clear style of what he wants. And it's a big personnel issue because you need players that suit that formation, as you know, because you guys play a 3-5-2 yourself or how 3-4-2-1, you know, however you want to call it. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting, but a lot does ride on this Europa League. But I'm with Ruben Amorim. While we record this video and we do another one next season, I'm definitely with the manager, mate. I'm going to stick with him.
Yeah. Do you know who you're getting in the semis yet, or has that not been drawn? Or?
Yeah, so we've got Bilbao.
Oh, so it could be an all-English final. I was going to say, I think even Spurs really have probably got the best chance of winning
Spurs
it. No disrespect to
they're in the final, no disrespect. But, you know, the first Norwegian team to ever get to a European semi-final. Spurs, if you can't beat Bodo, no disrespect, but Spurs, there's a problem.
Yeah,
you know, I look at
especially
us.
across 2 legs.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know, Dave, but the final is at the San Mamés, which is the Bilbao Stadium. So they've got a lot to play for. I'm superstitious. I'm already thinking, oh, look, the finals at their stadium, they're probably going to beat us now. Do you know what I mean? But the first leg is there. Second leg's at Old Trafford, like last night was. So, yeah.
Put yourself in the game. And
bring it back to Old Trafford. But, yeah, it's been a disappointing campaign. I've been a bit disappointed with players as well. You know, Rasmus Højlund has not performed. Mason Mount into his 3rd season. I feel like he's now second. I can't lose count. But, like, you know, he might get a start on the weekend. He needs minutes. It's not kicked on for him. And I like Mason Mount, but it's just not worked out. But it's just been a very underwhelming season. There's no one's really stood out. Bruno's been good and tried to play number 8, number 6 and do everything. But, yeah, it's disappointing. What do you think on Cunha, by the way? Like, genuinely, you've had a couple of moments where he spoke out, a few things on social media. He said that, look, he's willing to move on. You guys got the release clause, I think, 65 million. Do you genuinely believe that Man United, with the Portuguese lingo we have at the club as well, like, we've got a chance and he's going to be looking to perform on Sunday?
I think... Yeah, I mean, the question is, I mean, we're recording this before Vitor Pereira's press conference, so he may well give us an insight, because last week in his press conference, he made it pretty clear that Mateus wasn't going to start. Obviously, he came off the bench and scored. There was a knock for a Bellegarde, so the chance that Cunha may come back in and start on Sunday at Old Trafford. I think if Manchester United get Champions League football, they've got as good a chance as anybody in signing him. I think there probably will be Wolves fans watching this thinking, well, Manchester United, it's a sideways step. They're not much better than us in the Premier League. But we all know United are a massive club. You know, I still think they're one of, if not the biggest club in world football. So I think that draw is instantly going to be there. So I do think whoever he goes to will have to be in European football. So I think that's the main thing. But I think they've got a chance. I think really it'll probably be, unless there's a surprise in there, I think it'll probably be between you and Arsenal, I would say.
Yeah,
I know Forest and so on are linked. I just can't see that happening. And plus, I can't really see him spending that much on a single player, maybe. But
yeah, it's true. What are your worries about, like, because I love his ball carrying ability. I love his mentality as well. I think he has got like that sort of real mentality to make a difference and want to win and get the fans on side. But if he was to go to a big club, having watched him every week, because I remember watching him at Hertha Berlin before he went to Atletico, and it didn't really work out at Atletico. What would be your concerns or worries?
See, the one thing, but I think he's improved on it a lot this side of Christmas. And Vitor complained about it a little bit. Gary O'Neill seemed to complain about it. Was his work rate off the ball in terms of, and of course, as a number 10 or a striker, you don't tend to expect them to work defensively, you know, all the time. But he's off the ball work rate needed work. But I genuinely think before the suspension, we saw it a little bit against Spurs. It has improved a little bit. I think at times his what's the right word here? Maybe petulance in terms of when things don't go his way on the pitch as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can get away if you're playing at Old Trafford, waving your arms in the air. Now, I suppose, again, respectfully towards Bruno Fernandes, he probably does a similar thing every now and then.
Yeah.
So I think it's just when good players know that things could be better around them, pretty much, maybe.
Maybe an area of frustration, isn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, exactly that. But I think in terms of quality, there's no denying his quality as a footballer. And I think there are some people wondering, if we still continue a strong run between now and the end of the season, could he be tempted to stay? But I think with that release clause set up, it's pretty much set up that
it gives me Jack Grealish vibes, where you knew he was going to leave Villa and they put a clause in place and said, look, if someone pays it, you can go.
Exactly that. So I do think he'll move on. But like I said, I think United have got a great chance, but they will need European football, I think, if they are to sign him. But would you have him at Old Trafford?
All day, yeah. I really like him. Yeah, I do you know what? Man United, we miss ball carriers, and I just love someone that can pick up the ball from deep in transition and take it up the pitch. And I also think as well, he's actually pretty composed in front of goal. So he can add goals. He can, he can ball carry up the pitch, and also I actually think he's a selfless player. Which, for example, Garnacho. I'm not the biggest Garnacho fan, but there are moments where get your head up. Decision making in the final third. Can you pick the right pass? No, you can't. And I feel like Cunha, there was a goal for Wolves where he got the ball, I think, about 7 yards out, and he could have just shot, but he just squared it to one of your players, and they just tapped it home. And it's just
that was against United. The
reverse fixture, oh my god, he was against United. Yeah, it was. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And that's why I remember it so good. But, do you know what I mean? Little things like that for me. Team, you think about, right, how can a team score first? And I think Hwang hadn't scored for a little while because I like him, but it helped his confidence as well. And it was just a nice touch on like little things like that where you can pick the right pass, make the right decision are so important. And I think Cunha is a selfless player, so I would take him. And I think one thing that I would want Man United to do, which I think they haven't done so much, is go for Premier League proven players. We had Ten Hag come in, and we've bought a lot of players from overseas or from the Dutch league and stuff like that. And I just feel like Ferguson back in the day when I was growing up would always get, a couple of Premier League proven players, whether it was Berbatov, Louis Saha, Alan Smith, if you remember him when you were young, you were younger. There's a lot of players that Man United would go for. I even said like Liam Delap at Ipswich right now. He's a typical one of them strikers that Man United with Ferguson would be like, right, he's 18, 19, I'm signing you, and you're going to be like, in 5 years, I'm going to make you the England striker, even if not, even less. Like, if we go for Liam Delap and Cunha, 40 million, 60 million, 100 million, you've transformed your front line really effectively. So, I would definitely take Cunha. And one player I do also like for you, not saying that I would go for him, by the way, just one player in general I would shout out is Agbadu. I've been really impressed. Wow. Dave, I have. Like, me, I don't just watch United. I love watching my football. And when he came in, I watched a few of his early games. And I thought, he covers ground. He's strong in a tackle. He's comfortable on the ball. Not amazing ball, but he's comfortable on the ball. And I just think like he's giving you a real bit of sternness in that central centre back role. I've been really impressed with Agbadu. I've got to be honest with you.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal, mate. He had a little injury, picked up an injury when we played at Liverpool, which was probably one of his weaker games, to be fair. And it was a little bit of a concern. He was out for a few weeks, but since he's come back, I think he came back for the Everton game. Since then, we haven't lost.
Where did you sign him from? French team?
Yeah, from Rennes.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, that's what it's interesting you talk about the Premier League quality and the Premier League proven. Like the players you mentioned there weren't exactly world beaters for Manchester United, but they were reliable players that Sir Alex could rely on. I mean, Berbatov had a great season, to be fair to him, but Saha and Smith, when things maybe weren't quite going right, you integrate them into the team and they know what they're doing and they can what to expect from the team. And I think with Wolves, they've tried to. Hasn't quite worked out in recent years, but I think the January window and last summer was interesting. They're trying to find maybe divisions that are similar in quality. And Agbadu and Manetti, who's another really interesting player. Yeah. Both came from France, both to the same team. And I think Ligue 1, in terms of maybe physicality, is probably maybe one of the closest leagues to the Premier League. So they've just come in as if they've played in the Premier League for 5 or 10 years as well. So I think that's an important point to make. And I think everybody wants to do that. Sometimes Premier League proven or Premier League quality and experience can cost you quite a lot of money. And if you can find them niche players, like you said, in the other leagues, it can make such a difference. And then also, it's the sell-on perks as well that you get, because obviously, if someone like Agbadu did kick on and then say no disrespect, but like a top 6 club came in, then you're making a significant amount of profit. But I do think the French league is a good one to look at. Even look at is it Strasbourg? They've got Liam Rossigny as their manager.
they're flying. Like, do you know what I mean? And he's doing well out there. So yeah, no, the French league is a good league. Definitely.
And Brazil as well is another one that with Andre, who you mentioned earlier on. Andre and João Gomes have been brilliant. You mentioned some of the players. I mean, Bruno. If you asked anybody, Bruno's pretty much that poster boy of Manchester United at the moment, and he's doing the business. You mentioned Garnacho. Is there anyone else that has really frustrated you or disappointed you in terms of how they haven't really kicked on this season? Because I think there's so many players. Like, even if someone offered me Rasmus Højlund, say,
good, yeah.
The thing is, you say, right, we'll sign Cunha, we'll give you Rasmus Højlund on loan. I'd probably say, yeah, fair enough, because I actually think in a different team, he could probably work. I don't think United are using him maybe correctly, but are there players like that have disappointed you, or that Manchester United should be getting more from?
To be fair, he actually was the first. So I could probably name one in each, actually. So I'll go with Rasmus Højlund first. Yeah, it was him, the first one that came to my head, because the money we spent for the amount of games he had played, it didn't really match up. But I just think he struggled. He's low on confidence. He's not great at holding the ball up. He's okay at running in behind. He tries to work defenders, but his finishing's not great. His passing's not great. And I just feel like sometimes, like you said, I'm not going to say that he's crap because he's rubbish. I don't want to do that and disrespect him. But I just feel like at the level of Man United, it's not. Sometimes it just doesn't fit. It doesn't. Your foot don't fit in the shoe or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So maybe if he moved on and went to a club with less expectation, then yeah. But I've really given up on him, and I gave him time as well. I was really patient with him, but it's just really not worked out, and I don't see it really improving, especially if we go and sign more attackers in the summer, because then that puts your pressure under more your position under more pressure. You then need to really deliver when you get in the minutes, and I don't think he'll do that. So yeah, Rasmus Højlund, another one that's going under the radar a little bit, but starting to digress a little bit and worry, is Ugarte. Funny enough, I like him as a destroyer. I think he's very good in sort of big games when you're expected not to have the ball, and you've just got to be a sort of, excuse my French, but a fly around. And, they just buzz around and win the ball back and stuff like that. But when he's on the ball, he doesn't pass forward. He can't break lines. And I think on the ball is a long-term concern, especially if you have him and Casemiro playing together. I think you need one or the other. So, for example, I love Adam Wharton for Crystal Palace. He gives me that Michael Carrick vibe. We've never replaced Michael Carrick. We tried it with Fellaini, Schweinsteiger, Nemanja Matic, Casemiro even, but they're not as good on the ball. And Michael Carrick for me is one of the most underrated players. Adam Wharton for me would be perfect. He'd be perfect alongside a Casemiro or a Ugarte who's doing a destroying job.
Is it frustrating that United don't go for those sort of players though? Sorry, Ty. Like Adam Wharton's, it was there. There was quality there in the Championship, and there were a lot of Premier League teams there. Do you think it is? I don't know. Maybe it's just like a Manchester
It might be a naivety thing. Like fans might say, "You're signing someone from Blackburn."
Yeah, exactly that. No, I think it is exactly. But you say Wharton, and I think United and other clubs probably need to be a bit more switched on. Say, for argument's sake, you've got Casemiro there now. Obviously, not a long-term player. Probably not a first-team player for a lot of United fans as well. But someone that could come in that you sign in January or the summer, not necessarily going to walk straight in the team, but you bed him into the United way of playing, give him minutes here and there, and then next summer he's ready to play. And I'm really surprised. And I suppose it's been the case for years, though, that more teams in the Premier League aren't doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, I have to agree, because now if you're looking at Wharton, you're going to be spending upwards of 70 million.
Exactly.
When you could have signed him for far less. And I do think teams need to be a bit smarter. I think there's another midfielder who's he's at Middlesbrough, linked with quite a few Premier League clubs, Hayden Hackney. I'm quite interested to see where he potentially goes. We'll remember this conversation and see where he ends up. But he's one of them players, again, a bit like Adam Wharton. Not the same style, but I mean, in terms of people like him in the Championship, he's ready for a move to the Prem. Let's see if they go up. But if not, I think he'll be on the move. But yeah, I think, people at bigger clubs like United and stuff like that, they need to look at it and say, look, don't care about where you're getting the player from. If someone's good enough and you think they're good enough, then get them, you know? You got to take a punt. But I feel like teams like Wolves, Palace, they have that comfortability where they can kind of take the punt with less risk, if you know what I mean, attached to it. So, yeah, I'd like to see Man United just be a bit more smarter in the market. I'm hoping that's what Jason Wilcox and Barada and them can do, because we haven't got the biggest budget. So we need to be smart. This is the time to do it. So, yeah, in midfield, I definitely want to see an improvement, because I just think Ugarte's fine as a squad player, but he worries me as a starter, especially with his passing. And then the other one, actually, is Dalot. I really think he's been underwhelming this year. there's always been this thing about Dalot. Is he better than Wan-Bissaka? Is he not? And it used to go on and on and on. Dalot's better on the ball, but Wan-Bissaka's better 1v1 defensively. It was just, everyone didn't know which side of bed to go on. But for me, Dalot's been the right wing back all year. He's never really injured, so I respect the consistency. But in terms of him and his ability and taking you to the next level, I'm not sure. I want another wing back on that side. And Dorgu, I'm going to give him time, but I got cooked for a tweet I put out. I know you follow me on Twitter. I put a tweet about Dorgu and I said, I'm not sure that he's the long-term solution. I got absolutely blasted, mate.
I saw that, actually. Yeah.
And now I'm getting people apologizing me, like group chats, DMs, oh, Ty, you was right. I'm like, I'm not, it's like I'm calling him crap, but I'm like, guys, just chill. Like, all I'm saying is that he's a solid player, but if you want to win leagues and go on and compete in the Champions League semi-finals, he's not the long term. I love Nuno Mendes. That's the level. That's the sort of left wing back you want to get to. But obviously, we're not there yet. But Dorgu's fine as a squad player, but I just think he's limited in going forward in the final third. But people just took it and got upset. But Dorgu and Dalot, the wing backs, I think we definitely need to really upgrade them because, like I said to you already, the importance of the wing backs for that formation, getting up and down and being technically really sound, is fundamental. So Agate, Højlund, and I think we need new wing backs. So they'll be the three sort of I'm a bit underwhelmed by this season.
Yeah, I'll quickly go back to my comment on Højlund because I know some Wolves fans might jump on it. I do mean as more of a competition for Strand Larsen, not replacing Strand Larsen as well, because I think they, in terms of profile, they're not probably too dissimilar, to be fair.
Not too dissimilar. And to be fair, Strand Larsen's picked up a little bit of confidence recently. I don't think he's I know what you mean, the full ticket, you're going to trust him with your whole heart to get 20 goals, but I think it's sort of that profile, that Edin Dzeko sort of them.
Yeah. Well, there was just, I think it was probably just after the United game, actually. He went through a little bit of a lull and he picked up a knock and he really struggled to get goals. And like I said, it's only really over the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks where he started to find the net again. Yeah, and I just think in situations where, especially under Gary O'Neill, he really struggled to play 60, 70 minutes. And we didn't have another number 9 to come on. So I think another player in that profile would be interesting. And we'll go back to quickly, Ty, before we finish, the comment that Amorim made about the rotation. So you mentioned Mason Mount. What other players can maybe we expect to see at Old Trafford? I assume not. I don't think there'll be 11 changes because I think there'll still be players that, even the likes of Bruno, that will probably fight through and start on Sunday, and maybe Onana who will keep his place. But is there anyone else that you think may well get the start on Sunday as well?
So I definitely think, I'm just trying to think of the squad now off the top of my head. So Mason Mount will definitely start. I think Harry Amas will get another start. I think Luke Shaw potentially might get 45 minutes from the off.
Yeah.
Because he came on yesterday and he probably got, let's be real, he was expected to play 45. We're not thinking it's going to go extra time. But I'd go Harry Amas will definitely come in. Mason Mount will come in. Christian Eriksen, I think, will come into the midfield. Try and give it a bit of control because he only came on in the last few minutes. So Eriksen and Mount, 2 midfield changes. Luke Shaw, Harry Amas, and potentially maybe 1 or 2 more, but I wouldn't know. I'd probably say you're tossing and turning. Cobby might get a few more minutes because he only came on in sort of the extra time period, basically. I expect maybe 5 changes at best, but we can't change it too much because actually, if I'm honest with you, you'll be really stretching it and going to the kids, mate. You can't change it too much, but then you need to keep some of the experienced players in. I think the
consistency as well. Still, from game
the lit's been out. The lit's been out a little while. Mazraoui went off at half time, so we don't know how long how serious it is, or it's a family issue apparently. So if he's back, Mazraoui will probably play. But I expect a few changes. So Eriksen, Mount, Cobby, Amas, and potentially 1 more will definitely come in. And then the rest I think will be the same. Garnacho probably starts. Bruno will probably start, and Højlund will probably start unless he throws an 18-year-old Chido because, Xerxes out for the season and we haven't got another number 9, mate.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting. I'm interested in bearing all of that in mind and obviously the strongish form that Wolves are on at the moment. Ty, what's your score prediction going into this game?
2-2.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's going to be quite fun for you neutrals to watch. I think there's going to be goals and I think we'll concede. But if I'm honest, I'm not trying to be naive. I'm not really too fussed about the result. I just want to, see a good game of football. Actually, I just want to see how Cunha plays. I'm actually quite more intrigued by that to see how he does, just mentally for him, like not just on the ball, but just like how he is and like if he feels like he is playing with a view of like, right, let me impress.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 2-2, especially the form you're in and us coming back off the 120 minutes. Yeah, would you be happy with a draw?
Probably, yeah. I think so. I mean, away from home, Old Trafford's always difficult. I'm actually going on Sunday, and I don't think I've ever seen us
Oh,
lose at
Christ.
Old Trafford for what it's worth.
Okay.
I think I've seen 2
Yeah.
draws and a win. But
Okay.
I know our record at Old Trafford in general is not great overall. But I'll be interested to see how it goes. But couldn't you all be an interesting one? I think he'll be the talking point going into the game
Yeah.
as usual. And I think at Old Trafford because he played really well at Molineux in the reverse fixture.
He
No,
did.
that was early days under Amorim and our second game under Vitor. And he scored
Yeah.
directly off a corner, if you remember as well. And
Yeah.
ever since that game, he just seems to always tries it now. But yeah, we'll wait and see. It'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to it either way. Where can people find you and your content if they wish to know?
Yeah, thank you, mate. Yeah, no, first, obviously, thank you for having me as
My
always,
pleasure, man.
Dave. Pleasure. Great football chat. You can find me Thai Sports Talk. That's YouTube. That's my own channel there. I'm going to be doing more content on there again soon. That's generic as well, so I won't just be talking about Man United. I actually do a lot of generic stuff on there. And then Never a Foul as well is our other channel. So yeah, you can find me on there. And then TikTok as well, Thai Sports on TikTok. I'm going to try and do more regular content on there. And then guys, make sure you like this video. Keep supporting Dave. He's a great guy. So yeah, no, I appreciate it, Dave.
Appreciate that, man. And yeah, apart from Sunday, mate, all the best for the rest of the season. And
cheers, mate.
For you, hopefully United do the business in Europe and get Champions League again for next season.
See how it goes. Touch wood.
Perfect, mate. Thanks a lot. I'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you so much. Have a great Easter.
Cheers, man. You too. So big thanks, as always, to Ty. I'll make sure I leave a link to him and his socials in the description down below. And let me know your thoughts and your score predictions in the comment section, guys. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're very close now. We're closing in on 19,000 subscribers, I think. So let's try and hit that as soon as we can. But until then, enjoy your Easter weekend, guys. Look after yourselves, and I'll catch you on the next one.